Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Morning Tea with CJ. The show where I browse the web, talk about the latest JavaScript news, and usually maybe try to implement something that I find in the latest JavaScript news. So let's get into it. I do have a GitHub repo. If you go to github.com/codinggarden/morning-tea, every episode I will post all the links that I talk about and post any code that I might write when I come across it. If you're watching live, please say hello in the chat, and let's get right into it. So I have r/JavaScript, r/webdev, r/programming. I also have Vue.js news open, and the Vue Mastery VueConf site. And this is interesting because they now have posted all of the talks from VueConf. So I was there at the end of March, and they've been posting them, but now they're all up. And actually pretty soon the lightning talks will be up too. I actually gave a lightning talk, so hopefully mine will be posted there. That'll be cool. But lots of really good talks on Vue.js here. I think just today they put up a React point of view, server-side rendering, storybook, and prototyping with Vue single file component. This one is super interesting. I don't know if the tool has been released yet, but it was a really engaging talk and a really cool tool that Pinewu built. And hello, Hakan. Welcome to the stream. The best fun interactive coding that I've ever seen. Keep it going. Thank you very much. All right, let's look at r/JavaScript first. Okay. This very first one, extremely amazing 3D flocking simulation of Starling murmuration using web graphics library. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, it's not super impressive, but maybe it is. I mean, it's going at 60 frames per second right now. You can see that here. Cool. Very cool. Not much more to say than that. Let's see what the comments say. Looks like a 404. Oh. That's very cool. Let's look at the code on GitHub, see what they did. Flocking is the motion of birds together, and flocking behavior is a type of behavior exhibited when a group of birds called a flock are in flight. Cool. I'm curious, are they using 3JS? So 3JS is a, I think I've talked about it before on the stream. I haven't done any episodes on it, but I have brought it up. But essentially, it's a library for doing graphics in the browser, and it uses WebGL, so it uses your actual graphics processor to render things. Let's see an example. Oh, yeah, like this Rubik's Cube. Wow. Not too impressive, but it instead of just using the CPU, it actually uses the GPU. And hello, Joe. Welcome to the stream. You can watch live. Awesome. Good morning, guys. And I guess for you, it's night? I don't know, but hello, welcome. So that's interesting. Might take a look at that later. I'm not super enthralled by it, but it's cool. NPM tip: you can run npx node at 6 to test your code in a specific version of Node. What? Yeah. So if you're not familiar with npx, it allows you to use commands from npm without having to install them globally, but it looks like it'll let you use specific versions of Node too. Let's try it. So right now, I'm running Node version 8. I should probably upgrade. But if I do npx, let's see what it is, node at 6. My guess is it's gonna have to download the runtime. And now we're in Node 6, so we can do things in Node 6. Like, I think if I wanted to make like an async function, that wouldn't work because that was not supported in yeah, that wasn't supported in Node 6, so that's cool. But I guess it's super interesting. Like, if on the fly you want to go back to a terminal with a specific version, but I think also you technically could like run a file. So like, if I just make a quick hello world, test.js, and it just logs like hello world, we could run this file using Node version 6, I believe. So like if we did that and then test.js, that file actually ran in the Node version 6 runtime. Super interesting. That's a neat little trick. I'm actually using NVM, which is Node Version Manager. Let's see if I have what I have installed. Yeah. So I have a few different versions installed, but NVM essentially allows you to install different versions and switch between them. And it also doesn't require admin privileges or sudo. So it's easy to switch between Node versions. But this npx command is pretty sweet. I like that. Impact HTML5 game engine. Ooh. Maybe we can make a quick game at the end of the stream. Impact is an HTML5 game engine. More info here. The awesome way to create even more awesome HTML5 games. Play everywhere. Flexible level editor for anything 2D. Uses the Ejecta framework to publish to the App Store. I have not heard of the Ejecta framework. That's cool. Get started in minutes. Do you have a demo? Games. Collectic? 3 years ago? I've never heard of this framework. Let's look at their GitHub repo to see how popular it is. It only has 171 stars. I say only. It's a lot, but there are other frameworks that have like thousands. Be curious. Like maybe at the end of the stream, I try to make like a basic game with it. The create a game video and the installation and getting started tutorial are probably a good starting point.
Hi, in this video I will try to build the game Pong with...
Let's take a quick break. My stream just cut out for a second. I think I'm back though. let me know if anything went wrong out there. But yeah, Brooks from Brooks Builds. Let's pull up his channel. Brooks Builds. He's been streaming a lot, learning Rust, and he's based here in Denver. So sometime next week we're gonna get together and try to build a game together. We might try to build Pong from scratch or something like that. It'll be fun. Cool. I'll leave Impact there. I'll come take a look at that later. I don't know how I feel about it. It's not super, doesn't seem to be super popular. The rise of JavaScript scheduling. Let's see what this is about. What is scheduling? At a high level, scheduling can be thought of as a way of splitting up work and allocating it to be completed by a compute resource. The work can be processed at some point in the future in an order and be a given resource that the scheduler specifies. Okay, so modern operating systems use scheduling systems to decide how to run all the programs on your machine, because you have lots of different programs running and it needs to schedule like which programs get computing resources and stuff like that. Okay, so why schedule work in JavaScript? By default, the browser uses a single thread to run all JavaScript in your page, as well as to perform layout reflows and garbage collection. This means that long-running JavaScript functions can block the thread, leading to an unresponsive page and a bad user experience. So on Sunday's Morning Tea with CJ, I did find an article talking about like parallel programming in JavaScript with web workers. So this seems to be along the same lines, where essentially you can offload things to a background task and handle them there instead of on the main thread. Cool. Ooh, who remembers this picture? This is the classic Angular event loop picture. If you ever did Angular 1x, and it talks about the digest loop and the digest cycle, and essentially how that fits in with the JavaScript event loop. Yeah, and in Vue.js, it actually batches DOM updates. So if you make multiple updates to your data in Vue.js, it doesn't just immediately update the page. It'll wait until several things, like until you're done updating and then update the page, so it's more performant. So that's essentially like scheduling when updates to the page should actually happen. Cool. I like it. Let's take a look at this one, and then we'll move on to r/webdev. Proton Native, a React environment for cross-platform native desktop apps. Interesting. So it seems like it might be similar to React Native. And because it says native desktop apps, my guess is it's not using something like Electron. Same syntax as React Native, there we go. Works with existing React libraries such as Redux. It's cross-platform, native components, no more Electron. Cool, so you're not building an app that's running like in a web environment. It's actually a native app running on your machine. I wonder if they have Mac support. It's got quite a few stars. Let's look at their website. Why? On mobile, it used to be hard to build beautiful cross-platform apps. Then React Native came along, giving us a seamless way to build user interfaces and manage state and code, all while doing it cross-platform. Yeah, so the interesting thing about React Native is it's not running your code inside of a web view on a mobile device. It actually will render native mobile UI components. So like the buttons you're used to on iOS or the buttons you're used to on Android, it actually renders those things when it's running on those environments. So here's a simple React component that has a window and a button inside of it, and when you run this, it's actually running a native app. It'd be like this window here. You could create a window like that. Check out the examples. They just have a notepad example. It seems like it's a pretty fresh framework. Maybe it'd be fun to build something like that. I don't know if they have Mac support. The image on their GitHub repo shows like a Windows app. Packaging. Bundle node. Linux and Mac. Okay. That'd be fun. Let's maybe build something with that at the end too. Cool. All right, let's move on to r/webdev. Oh, I read this one last night. Small tips about freelancing that I've learned over the years. Posted on Freelance, but I think it probably applies here. Actually, yeah, I read this first as just a self-post, but I think they made a blog post out of it because there's some really good info in there. I myself haven't done much freelance work, but I plan to, maybe. I don't know. Question in the chat, Kaizen said, is Electron Web Base? So the way Electron works is it's essentially a Chrome window, a Chromium window that has access to node modules. So anytime you're running an Electron-based app, you actually have essentially Chrome and Node running on your machine. And you have access to the operating system, so you can access the computer itself, but it's not native. It's not like native UI elements. Like every platform, Linux, Windows, Mac, has a native way of doing things so that apps actually run. So on a Mac, like the Finder window here, this is like a native UI element, and like it's built into the machine. And so when you're using Electron, essentially you're just using web technologies, and then it has a way of interfacing with the machine itself. But what Proton is saying is you can build apps that actually are native apps. And Emmy is asking, have I made any native apps? Or maybe asking the chat as well. But my first job out of college was as a Windows desktop developer. So I used to build desktop apps with C#. I built like data visualization apps and configuration tools and stuff like that. I haven't built any native apps on Mac. But if you have Xcode, do I have Xcode? Yeah, there it is. Install additional I guess I haven't ran it maybe since I restarted my machine. I'm not gonna do that right now. But inside of Xcode, you can create a new desktop app, but you would have to use either Objective-C or Swift to build the app. And Proton is essentially allowing you to build apps using React, and then they get turned into an actual native app. And I have played around with doing like native apps on Android that use Java. I've built some native apps on Windows Phone that use C#. Nothing large or popular, but I have done it before. But yeah, about this freelancing thing, just some really good tips, like talking about freelancers have a very high hourly rate, mainly because they're self-employed. Like when you have an employee at a company, they have benefits and vacation, and there's so many other perks beyond their hourly rate that their hourly rate is very low compared to a freelancer. So like a typical employee getting paid $30 an hour would probably be $90 an hour if they're working as freelance, because that's not $30 an hour is not accounting for all of their vacation and benefits and stuff like that. A client asking for 6 hours a day will cost you 8 hours. So like if they only need 6 hours of work and you only are going to bill them for 6 hours of work, you only have 2 hours left in the day of work, and you're not really going to be productive with that. So he's saying if that's the case, then you just bill them for 8 hours, because they're essentially taking the whole day from you. Make time for downtime. This is real anywhere you work, but burnout is real. It sucks. I'm essentially taking downtime right now. I left my job about a month and a half ago. Haven't really been searching for a new one yet. I've just been streaming for you all, but downtime is important. You're a business, not an employee. Unreasonable requests deserve unreasonable rates. So he talks about if they're asking for emergency or urgent or rush work, add 30% to the rate with a minimum of 2 hours billed. So basically, treat yourself right. Don't undermine your work or just work really fast because people ask you to. Charge them more. Set business hours and stick to them. Yeah, this is a great article. I'll save that one for sure. This is interesting. I'm not actually using VS Code, but VS Code material theme. It looks pretty. So if you are using VS Code, this is like a material design theme, and I think they have like several different color palettes, like dark and light. It looks really nice. Might try it out. I think soon, within the next few weeks or so, I am going to switch to VS Code. I've just been using Atom for so long, it's just second nature to start that up instead of VS Code. Let's look at this one. Starting Google Maps platform arrives with pay-as-you-go billing, free support, and cloud requirements starting June 11th. Let's see. Google today announced a massive revamp of its Google Maps. Okay, I seem to be having streaming issues with my software. It seems to be back, though. Okay. But this article is essentially saying pretty soon Google is going to require an API key for everything. Right now, it's pretty simple to just embed a map in your page without really even having to sign up or get an API key. And I think this is saying you're going to have to pretty soon. The previous Google Maps Business Standard and Premium plans have been consolidated into a pay-as-you-go plan. Developers pay only for what they use, with Google promising no annual payments, upfront commitments, termination fees, or usage limits. There's a free tier in the form of a $200 monthly credit for all developers. Okay, so that should allow anybody that's already using Google Maps out there without any sort of API key to kind of like do the basics, but this is a big shift. Let's look at the comments, see what people are saying. Am I reading this right? Google Maps is increasing their API from 50 cents per thousand to $7 per thousand calls. Also, where it was once about 25,000 free calls per day, it's now going to be 28,000 free per month. Wow. It might be time to switch to some other map provider. There is OpenStreetMaps, and you can like provide your own tiles for it. Wow. But I mean, Google's got to make money somehow. I mean, they're already like a huge company making all their money off of advertisements. I don't know. Mapbox, I've used that once. This guy says it's dope as hell. You could even provide custom styling for the map itself. Yeah, I think this is... Oh, never mind. This is like creating styles for Google Maps. But Mapbox, you could make it look like Google Maps if you wanted to. Yearly $10,000 to $200,000, well, $10,000 a year to $200,000 a year increase in costs based on our current average usage. So this person like is part of a business and they're using Google Maps. Thank you, Google, investing a fraction of that to migration to competition. Right. Like, why would you spend 20 times more money when you could just use some other service? That's crazy. Crazy. But I think at the same time, when you think about it, it's like we've almost become entitled on the internet. Like, email should be free. Google Maps should be free. Social networks should be free. When they're not free, you're paying for them with your data. But everyone has the mentality that they shouldn't have to pay actual money for these things. That's not to say they're charging a lot of money. That's a lot. That's a very large increase versus what you can currently use with it. Whoa. Let's look at this self-post. Cores is the bane of my existence. We've solved Cores issues several times on this stream. Let's see what they talk about. Every time I try to start a new project involving an API, I always get stuck with a stupid access control origin resource issue every damn time. I've read the MDM docs on it. I've installed the Chrome browser add-on that allows Cores. Don't do this. Don't ever do this, because your site will only work on your machine or any machine that has that extension installed. That is not how you want to solve this issue. I've changed my gulp browser sync settings according to 3 different posts. The thing is, you have to either use a proxy or be in control of the server to solve this issue. There's no other way around it. Learn about Cores. Understand how it works and why it exists. Learn how to enable Cores on your backend. That's the thing. So if you're in control of the server, you have to add that access control allow origin header to the response to allow other origins to make requests to it. You're being very vague about what why Cores is an issue for you. As other commenters have pointed out, are you having issues when accessing your own APIs or third-party ones? If it's a third-party one, don't allow Cores then. That doesn't allow Cores, then why are you using them? If it's your own API, then why don't you just enable Cores on the server? So many mysteries. I'm trying to get responses from a third-party API, solely working on the front-end part of things. And you really can't do this unless you have a server. So typically, like an API like Steam is like very protected, because if your API key gets released, then other users can make requests on behalf of your account. So typically you would want to hide that behind like a server-side request. I've installed the Chrome browser add-on that allows Cores. Wait, what? Yeah, and this person is saying, I really recommend not doing that. So I've had students in the past that did this and never learned anything about Cores and never figured out how to fix it. 2 ways. A proxy server, or set the header on your backend. It's the only way. I wonder if anyone's mentioning Cores anywhere. No. You should just enable Cores on the server. Alternative, proxy all requests to the API. Same here. Bloody hate it. The only solution workaround that I come up with is to install Google Canary and disable the security to it. What? Stop it. Don't do that. There's a Stack Overflow page that explains the whole thing in simple steps. That helps me get around Cores issues. Sometimes if you set up your local server to get around Cores, that'll work too. No. I mean, the thing to think about with web development is you want to create a website that works for everyone. If you have to use a specific browser with security disabled to use your website, nobody else is going to be able to use your website. Yeah, lots of recommendations in here. I'm not gonna add another comment because there's a lot, but wow. Okay. All right, let's move on to r/programming. Emmy says the explanation I provided the other day about cores and user proxy seemed like a fine way to deal with it, and so this was in the Newbie Tuesday stream when we built the weather app, because the weather API we were talking to did not allow cores, and our API key was totally free. We didn't have any credit card hooked up to our account, so we just used a freely available existing proxy server and sent the request through that. If I had my credit card hooked up to that, and if somebody was like to get a hold of that API key, it would not be good to use just a plain open proxy server. I would want to create my own so that I could hide that stuff. But if you're dealing with like just basic APIs and freely available API keys, this thing called Cores Anywhere works totally fine. You essentially just put this in front of the URL you're requesting, and this adds that access control allow origin header. Okay, let's move on to r/programming. Oh, this is a funny one. XKCD's containers comic. Man, Docker is being used for everything. I don't know how I feel about it. Story time. Once long ago, I wanted to use an old tablet as a wall display. I had an app and a calendar webpage that I wanted to show side by side, but the OS didn't have split screen support, so I decided to build my own app. I downloaded the SDK and the IDE, registered as a developer, and started reading the language docs. Then I realized it would be way easier to get two smaller phones on eBay and glue them together. On that day, I achieved software enlightenment. But you never learned to write software. No, I just learned to glue stuff together that I don't understand. Okay, fair. Modern software development is pretty much gluing stuff together that you don't understand. I mean, you don't have to not understand it. You can dive deeper and start to understand it. But it's just an interesting look at things, because like Docker is becoming very popular, and I mean a lot of people don't understand totally how it works, and essentially it puts your app into a container with all of its dependencies and it's ready to go, and you don't have to really understand much about it. It just works. If you ever read XKCD, when you hover over the comic, it has alt text. All services are microservices if you ignore most of their features. So if you're not familiar, a microservice is basically, think of it like an Express API that only has one endpoint, and you build out your infrastructure using lots and lots of these small little endpoints. But if you have a really large JSON API with lots of endpoints, if you only use one of the endpoints, then technically it is a microservice. I don't know. This comic is hilarious. Hakan is saying we need to have 226 subscribers to monetize. Thank you, guys. So if you check out my channel right now, I am very close to 1,000 subscribers. I need, now 225. Emmy is asking, how do we help? Share with any coders that you know. You follow me on Twitter, and then you can share a link to my channel. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to like spam other people's channels or anything like that, but like if you see somebody asking a question on another YouTube channel and I've made a video that answers that question, maybe tell them to check out my channel. But yeah, I appreciate the support. I think pretty soon, so like I'm building up my subscriber base, things are getting good. Let's take a break. But pretty soon, I want to start doing blog posts about the streams I create, so that should increase traffic because people will see my blog posts and then watch my videos. And then I also want to start doing shorter tutorial videos rather than just full live streams, because a lot of people on YouTube, that's what they're looking for. They want like a quick fix, like how do I do X? So pretty soon I'm going to start uploading videos like that, and that should drive more traffic to the channel. But I appreciate everyone. Thanks for your support. Okay, that comic is hilarious. And just on this comment of gluing stuff together that you don't understand, that's a lot of what software development is. Like, we find these open source libraries online. We didn't write the code, but it does what we need it to do, and then we glue that together with some other library, or we're using a front-end framework with other libraries built into that. Like, modern software development is just taking all the, it's like Legos. You take all these blocks and put them together to make it do what you want it to do. Cool. Let's check this out. Girls and software. This is an article from 2014. Are people subscribing right now? That's awesome. Okay. Sweet. Keep them coming. Yeah, and I was just thinking about girls in software. So it's proper nowadays to say women, not girls. This was a few years ago, but even their first paragraph here is, yep, I said girls, since men were once boys, but women sprang from the head of Zeus, full grown and fighting like modern day Athenas. You can start flaming you now for using that nasty word, unless you'd like to see the industry through the eyes of a girl who grew up to be a woman in the midst of a loose collection of open source communities. What is this even about? Internet crash, what did you miss? Not much. Oh, you missed the XKCD comment. Check that out. I'll post a link later, but and if you haven't seen XKCD before, it's absolutely hilarious. There's a lot of comics about math and science and programming. Like, let's look at the previous comic. Yeah, so how what a Python environment looks like. And like with Python, there are so many different ways to install packages, and you might have different like virtual environments in different folders where binaries are installed. And his comment is, my Python environment has become so degraded that my laptop has been declared a Superfund site. So they have like super witty science and math based comics. Let's look at the comments for this, because this article on girls and software was posted a long time ago. I don't know if I'm going to say that out loud. Okay. 12-year-old girls today don't generally get to have the experiences that I did. Parents are warned to keep kids off the computers lest they get lured away by child molesters or worse, become fat. That goes doubly for girls who then grow up liberal arts majors. Yeah, I think it's important to get women into... Oh yeah, I totally forgot, Emmy. I did say don't install the Chrome extension for course. Sorry, but there has been a big push lately to get women and young women into tech and just interested in science and technology and math. I'm a volunteer for an organization called Chick Tech, and this is a program. They have locations all over the U.S., but once a month here in Denver, they bring in at-risk high school girls that have qualified to learn about tech. So I've run a robotics workshop. I think that was the URL we saw. But I essentially did a day-long workshop where I taught the girls about Arduinos and electronics and programming in C++. Let me show some pictures real quick. Yeah, so I came up with these instructions on like how to assemble the robot and taught the girls how to solder. I think it's extremely important, like especially early on, to show them that it's not hard to do these things, and there's tons of available resources online to learn about technology and get involved in technology. So yeah, I don't know how much longer I'm going to spend on this. This is a lot of text. I'm not going to read it. Let's see if there's any other comments. Okay. I'm not going to go in depth on that. Cool. Stack Overflow for Teams is now available. Interesting. Is this going to be like a privately hosted and you can just ask your team questions? That'd be pretty cool. It's here. After months of designing, building, testing, and beta-ing, we're happy to announce that as of today, Stack Overflow for Teams has launched and is available for everyone. It often feels like developers have to know everything constantly, juggling dozens of tools, languages, libraries, and frameworks. To do this, they have to be able to quickly find the information they need in order to get back to writing software. When that information is public, all you need is a quick search on Stack Overflow to turn up an answer and be on your way. When that information is internal and private, it's a maze of stale wikis and lost emails. Yeah, so it's like a internally hosted for your company Stack Overflow, and you can ask questions about your company on it. That's really cool. I don't have a company, but if I did, I would use it. Awesome. Get started now, 14-day free trial, and then $10 a month for your first 10 users. Any additional users is $5 a month. It's pretty sweet. There's some other tools out there, but Stack Overflow is like extremely popular amongst developers, so maybe like tech companies might use this for their internal questions and answers. Cool. Let's click like one more link, and then I think I'm going to try to use Proton. We'll see what happens. This is the internals of Postgres. So Postgres is a database management system. In this document, the internals of Postgres for database administrators and system developers are described. Postgres is an open source, multi-purpose relational database system which is widely used throughout the world. It is one huge system with the integrated subsystems, each of which has a particular complex feature and works with each other cooperatively. Although understanding of the internal mechanism is crucial for both administration and integration using Postgres. Its hugeness and complexity prevent it. The main purposes of this document are to explain how each subsystem works and to provide the whole picture of Postgres. So Postgres itself is an open source project, so you could actually see how this database management system was created. This is super interesting. So it goes in depth as to how it structures the table, how it processes queries, how it manages concurrency, and I guess like multiple connected users. I'm not going to go into it, but that's a cool resource. All right, we'll look at Vue News and then try to build something with Proton. And if you're not familiar with this website, it's news.vuejs.org, and I believe they post, every Tuesday they'll post new news about Vue.js. And the past 2 weeks they have posted new videos to vuemastery.com, so they talk about those there. So this talk, 7 Secret Patterns Vue Consultants Don't Want You to Know, I was there for that talk. It's super cool. If you've been using Vue.js for a while, he shows so many things that we like do a lot or do all the time, and what you can do instead to make your code shorter, smaller, easier to understand. So productivity boosts. What's this one? Let's just look at a few. So smarter watchers. It's a common pattern to have a method that needs to get called on component creation and then again when a watch property changes. So when the component is created, get the list of users, and then anytime the search text change, get the list of users, and search text is a watch property. However, you can create a watch property and set immediate to true. And by doing that, whenever the component is created, your watcher, a handler, will automatically get called. So you can get around like calling this thing and automatically do it always. Well, automatically do it when it's created. Component registration, like if you have lots of custom components and you want to register all of them, typically you import them and then add them to this object. He has a simple file here that basically reads the directory contents and then creates an export that has all of those files inside of it. So that's super convenient. This is an interesting one. Lazy loaded routes. So if you're creating routes like in your router.js file, typically when you specify exactly which component should be used for that route. But if you think about it, you have some routes that not all users will access. And when you put the component property on there, that code is going to get loaded no matter what for everyone. They may not go to that page, but they're still going to have to download that code. But if you use Webpack's lazy load, this is essentially a function that will only get called to import that component when it's actually needed. So for other users of the app, it's a faster download because they're not going to get the code for this admin page. But then if the admin goes to view that page, then it will actually bring that in. Cool. So that's a really great talk. If you've been using Vue.js for a while, lots of cool tricks and tips in there. Demystifying Vue.js internals. Let's check this out. So this was posted on April 24th. When it comes to JavaScript frameworks, Vue.js is a trending UI framework. It just crossed 90,000 stars on GitHub and more than More than 13,000 forks, very much closer to React. Definitely. So this article goes into what happens when you create a Vue.js instance, what happens to a template internally, what is the significance of the virtual DOM, how does the template re-rendering happens when a property changes. Beautiful. I recommend if you've been building Vue.js apps and kind of been taking for granted how it all works, you should read this article. All right. Anything else interesting I should talk about? Cool. I think that's it. I'm going to post all of these links, and let's try to build something with Proton. Quick start. On Linux, those are your prerequisites. If you're on Windows, you may need to install Windows build tools. Let's see. And actually, I should be able to use npx for this. I have no idea how this is going to go. I think it will work on Mac. Let's see. So I'm going to do npx create Proton app, my app. This is taking a while. Is Proton a strategically selected name or just the same team as Electron? I think it's a different team, and maybe that's why, because like it's similar to Electron, so they called it Proton. We can look real quick. Is there an about? I think it's just a play on that it's not Electron, it's a Proton. Yeah, because it says native components, no more Electron. Let's look it on GitHub. 125 commits. Let's see how long it's been around. A lot of times in these projects, you can see like when the name was chosen. Let's see if they chose the name like. We're gonna go all the way back. Let's look at their initial commit. There's a git ignore. There's the it's using the GNU public license. So the GNU public license is an interesting open source license because they say that it says when you use this code, your code too has to be open source, I believe. Let's take a quick break. Protons, electrons, what are the other things? I don't know. I was just gonna see like in their initial commit, does their README say? Yeah, so their initial name was React Native Cross. They didn't call it Proton in the initial commit. That's funny. Run prettier, rename. So this was on February 9th. They gave it the name Proton Native. It used to be called Reactor Native. Cool. Yeah, I think it's a play on Electron. Okay, it created the app. Let's get back to it. See if I'm on the quick start. Yeah. Okay. So I created my app. Let's go into it, and then do npm start. Neutrons. Protons, electrons, neutrons. I should make a framework called Neutron. I don't know what it's gonna do, but is anything happening? Oh, there it is. I got a window. Okay, and you can tell like this is a native Mac window. It's got like all the native UI controls. Sweet. Let's do some stuff with it. So let's see what it generated. Got the folder. You've got your index.js. It has just a basic React component that has app. You must always include app around everything, okay? And then it has window with the title, and then all of your other components go there. So let's add some components. Let's do like a button, maybe? Okay, let's try this. We create an input where the user can type, they click the button, and then we show a dialog with what they typed. That shouldn't be too hard, right? I don't know. All right, let's just put some text on the screen. So you can pull in text from Proton Native. So we'll pull that in. And then you can put that here. So the text is going to be enter your name. And then below that, I want to do a text input. So text input works in a very similar way. I wonder if you can bind it or get access to the value. No idea. Let's just get it to render on the page before we try to work with it. Okay. And then we want a button. Looks very similar. So you bring in button from Proton, and then below that, we will add the button and say hello. All right, let's see what happens when we start up the app. Hey Bob, welcome to the chat. Quarks. I think quarks are even lower level, right? So like atoms are made up of quarks? I don't know. I'm not a physicist. Oh, it died. The above error occurred in your React components. Button, window, app. Consider adding an error boundary to your tree to customize error handling behavior. Oh, window and group only take one child. Okay, so I can't. Group can only have one child. To have more than one child, use boxes. But this has two children. Let's just try it. So you bring in group, and then you got to wrap these things in group. Okay, let's try again. I think for whatever reason it's like not showing the window, and I have to go into my bar and click on it. So I think again this is an invalid example because it's showing two items. Oh, you have to use boxes. Okay. A container for multiple components that are ordered vertically or horizontally. I think we'll just use box instead of group. Because then it'll be vertical. You'll see text, input, and then button. All right, let's try again. That's a native app. So it says enter your name. So I want to be able to say CJ, click say hello, and then show a dialog that shows my name. Cool. Close it. Yep. All right, so let's figure out. First, we should be able to get like a click handler of the button, and then we got to figure out how to get what is inside of the text box. So there is an onClick and called when the function is clicked. So on the button, we can say onClick equals say name, like that. and then we'll create a method called sayName. And actually, we should, yeah, so we should be able to get, I think the text input has an onChange event. So whenever the text of the input changes, we're going to set a value on state. So let's do that. So onChange, we're going to say, and this maybe gets access to the event. I don't know. I'm also curious what happens if we log things. Like, do they go into the terminal window? We'll say update name. We'll say set name with the event. And then we now need a function called set name with the event. And for once, let's just log it. See if there's anything about logging. Let's just try it. What's the error? Set name is not defined. Oh, and it's got to be, both of these have to be this.setName and this.sayName. And so in React, these are pointing to methods on the instance. Okay. Look at that. So the thing logging here is just the actual text. It's not the event. So it's just going to be value and value. And we'll create a constructor. In React, you have to call super in your constructor. And then we're just going to set the initial state to be an object that has the name starting off as an empty string. And then when we set name with the name, we're just going to do this.setState, and we're going to update the state to have the name that they just typed in. And then when we click sayName, we should be able to log this.state.name. Okay. I think one thing about this though is there's no like auto refreshing or hot reloading. Like, you literally have to kill the app and then restart it to use the latest code. Okay, so we type our name, that it should be setting state, and then when I click the button, it's calling that function. So now when I click the button, I want to open a dialog. Let's figure out how to do that. Dialog. Message, a simple message. So let's try it. So when we say the name, we're going to show a dialog, and I need to bring in dialog from Proton Native. And the first parameter should just be message because we're giving it a message. And the message we're going to give it, oh, do we give it title and description? So title should just be hello. And then the description should be hello, this.state.name. All right, if this works, I'm going to be so excited. Let's try it. So let's kill it, start it. So here's our nice little native app. CJ, say hello. It broke. Options is not defined. Did I not do that correctly? Let's see. Title. I am defining options though, I thought. Oh. That? interesting. Let's see. It is defined though. Say hello. Doesn't seem to like that. UI dialogues.messagebox. Options is not defined. But they're right there. It has a title and a description. Required 1 if it is message or error. Let's just try to do what they did, like inline. See if that makes any difference, because this doesn't seem to be working. Okay, that works. How is that any different from what I did? So let's just try this. Title will be hello. Is it because I used single quotes? That can't be. Can't be. Yeah. I mean, maybe it just doesn't like that I'm using the message property. Comment in the chat. Who wants CJ to play the beginning of that song with his guitar at the beginning of the next video? Name of the song. Don't know how to pronounce that. Kirak Idiorum? I could look it up. Okay, maybe I can... Maybe there's something wrong with the message dialog. Let's just try to show an error dialog. Yeah, it could be a bug. This seems to be fairly new, fairly recent, which seems to be a theme on this show. When you try to use new stuff, it breaks. All right, moment of truth. Let me get the soundboard out. I think this is gonna work. Okay. Drum roll, please. So we get a message box hello CJ. But really just doing this, you can see like the native nature of this app. Like these are not web UI components. These are literally like native components to Mac OS X. And if I were to compile and run this on Windows, it would look like a Windows app. If I were to compile this on Linux, it would look like a Linux app. So that was okay. It worked. For whatever reason, the message dialog was not working. Let's just see real quick if they have an issue open about it. Let's take a quick break. Issues. Dialog. Feature request. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing wrong, because I was passing in the same object, but whenever I put message instead of error, it said that options was undefined. So, no idea. But this is super interesting. You build native apps using React components, and then you can ship them cross-platform. And yeah, I mean, because you're using a React app, my guess is you could install anything from npm and use those modules inside of here. I think so. Okay. I think that is all for this morning's stream. I will post links to all of the things we covered today and push that up to GitHub. Tonight, I am going to be streaming at 6:20 p.m. Mountain Time. You can set a reminder on this page. I think tonight is going to be an intro to React. I think I've settled on that. I do have an idea for like a Reddit client that I want to build, but we've been doing a lot of Vue.js. I think it's time to learn about React. So tonight will be an intro to React. We'll build probably a simple to-do app with React.js. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a wonderful afternoon, morning, or night wherever you are in the world. Not exactly in that order. Check out coding.garden to see my upcoming live stream schedule. I am going to take a break tomorrow and Saturday, but I'll be back again on Sunday for morning tea, and I am going to be streaming this afternoon, so tune in for that. Again, if you are not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. I think apparently we're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers. We're at 777, and we'll get there. Yeah, cheers. Have a wonderful evening or night or morning, wherever you are. See you next time.